Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Look like we are having a late start. But let me tell you something. I walk across town. Now, it is hot, but it is breezy. The sky is simply beautiful. You can hardly, if you see any cloud, they're just white and fluffy. This is Freedom FM 106.5. We are broadcasting from St. Kitts. We call St. Kitts Sugar City, but the country is St. Kitts and Nevis. We are located at Basse-Terre, the sweet sugar city. It is a beautiful Caribbean day, and I'm happy to be here. This is Issues with your host, Coach Adrian. And as usual, from the bottom of my heart, it is great to have you on my show. As usual, you would allow me to reach out just before we present the topic of the day. Let me just say bonjour. Bonjour to all my many dedicated listeners. They WhatsApp me, they email me, they meet me on the street, some call from overseas. Wherever you are listening. What about my St. Lucian posse? Ellis, I hope you are doing one. What about Franklin? I hope you all guys are doing well. I hope you all guys. What about the mothers? The mothers from St. Lucia, all the queens and the princesses. I hope you had a great day yesterday, Mother's Day. Greetings, of course, to my boys. I never forget my boys at Bass Auto Repair Shop at St. Peter's. Those boys are the best. How are you doing, Manners? Manners, if you can hear me, I have your stuff with me. I keep on carrying this thing, and I have this thing in my bag. I hope you are doing well, Sylvain. I hope you are in good health, and I hope you are doing well. To my beautiful listeners, dedicated listeners, some of them call me and they tell me, from Nevis. Some in the Virgin Islands. I didn't even know that. And of course, my friends over in different states, particularly in New York, in USA. Bonjour, welcome to our program. Now, I have two housekeeping matters to deal with. The first one is that the IMF publishes what is called the World Economic Outlook. If you remember, I have discussed one of those outlooks or two of them before. The publications come one in April, one in October. The April one is out. It's out. And just a summary, it says slowdown in growth and increase in inflation are expected to be pronounced, particularly in developing economies. So they're already talking about that. The outlook is for more economic hardship, particularly for small countries, small open dependent economies like us in the Caribbean. The other news is good news. It's good news, not necessarily it has a lot of good news, but it has good news. I receive from my listing at about 5:30 on Friday, I received from the IMF, the St. Kitts and Nevis IMF staff report for 2026 Article 4 consultation, April 2nd, 2026. So we have the IMF report. That is good news. We have the IMF report, and the report is a rather large one. I have worked at the central bank for almost 20 years, and I have never seen a report so large. Remember, I told you that when the statement was published after the team had done their work, I told you that this was not the report, and then you are not to take the information inside there and go about bantering it around, because the report would give you the details and whatever, and it may even revise and so. Well, this report is 68 pages. When I saw that, I got scared. I said, what? 58 pages? The largest report I think I have seen in my tenure, and that is a long time since I'm leaving IMF. And I think it's 49 pages. That's if I remember. Of course, 49 pages plus the annex and so on. This one is 68 pages. And some of the data sets are revised. I told you, that's why I told you, be careful with the preliminary statement. Some of the data sets are revised. The analyses are very, very detailed. There are lots of case studies inside there. They are, in fact, I say they're exhaustive. The policy prescriptions are very forensic, and I said bold. We are going to have a feast. So I have to take time for me to read this thing and digest it and whatever and whatever. So what we intend to do, we will start the ball rolling on the IMF report on Monday. That is next Monday, the 18th. But you understand that, as I said before, I'm not going to rush that report. I'm not going to rush that report. I said that already. I'm not going to rush it. We will deal with the report in a professional way. Let the numbers speak for themselves. Let the analysis and the issues arise out of the data set that is presented. And what I will do is I'm going to juxtapose the IMF report in the context of the IMF World Economic Outlook of April 2026. So you understand that I'm going to do a lot of hard work, and so therefore I'm not going to rush it, and at the same time I will make sure that I try to make sure that the detail is so presented that maybe a child can understand. Because let me tell you something. The IMF report is not really made for the people on the street, and we have always quarreled about that. It is too technical. It is too technical. It is too full of economic jargon. Everything about it is not made for the person who does not have a handle on economics. That's not to say you can't understand some of the stuff, but you see, there are lots of assumptions inside there. There are lots of mathematics inside there, and you got to have a handle over it. That's why I'm not going to rush it at all. I'm going to take my time, and even if it takes me, that's what I plan to deal with the IMF report. Even whether it takes me 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 5 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, I will take my time to educate the public. That's what I plan to do. All right. Let's run. We are running like Juju, Julian Alfred, the fastest woman in the world. 100 meters in 10.72 seconds. And when she was interviewed, she said that is Lucia pressure. Fine. Today, I will conclude our discussion on how safe your money is at the commercial banks. In fact, I had intended actually to move on, but a number of people spoke to me. People called me, people messaged me, and they said that because I interpreted last time, because few people called, maybe they don't have interest in that. But I was wrong, and people called and people said that. In fact, some people said to me that they were very sorry that they missed it. Their schedule did not allow them to so and so. I say you can get it on YouTube. They say they don't care if YouTube is good, but they want to hate. So I say, well, all right, thank you. I had not finished it because I had only done 1/3 of it. So I want to finish it. Well, I won't say I want to finish it. I want to continue today. Now, if it's not finished, we'll have to let it rest. We'll see where we can bring it in, perhaps when we are discussing the IMF report and all the other stuff, because we'll be doing, next week I'll tell you how we are going to approach the IMF report. But today would be the last formal show on discussing the commercial banks and the Eastern Caribbean responsibility for oversighting. Now, that is not to say that I'm not going to speak about the Eastern Caribbean, because I intend that as part of the IMF discussion, I am going to discuss the central bank big push and the economic forecast, the projection that they have made with respect to how they will grow the countries or grow the economies of the countries of the ECCU. So when I am doing the growth section of the IMF, which we normally do first, I am going to give my views on the central bank economic model, the central bank approach to economic development. Bam, that's it. Let's go on. So, how safe is your money at the commercial bank? And how well is the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank at Birdrock supervising the banks under its care? Let us do a little review. We said last time that after 40 years of operation, and you might say, well, Peter, you were there, so you're talking about yourself. Of course I was there, and I'm talking about myself, because we wrote volumes. I wrote about that. A number of people wrote volumes. We argued, we debated, we did all kind of things. And the governor, Dwight Vayner, just would not buy it. He was not interested in that. So I understand there's a measure of contributory negligence. Yes. After 40 years of operation, there is no insurance for the likely loss of deposits in the indigenous banks in the Eastern Caribbean currency area. And we have already identified the currency area. We said from Anguilla going down to St. Vincent. There is no protection for people who place their monies in the bank, like I'm talking about St. Kitts now. There is no protection for people who place their monies in the Bank of Nevis and the St. Kitts and Nevis Anguilla National Bank right now as we speak. That's the point that I am making. So what is all this thing about deposit insurance? We can call a deposit insurance a guarantee, I'm putting my own words, a guarantee provided by a government through its central bank that protects, I'm trying to fix it up, that protects banks' customers or the depositors' money if the commercial bank fails. That's what we are talking about. It's an insurance that provides that kind of, or the system provides that kind of guarantee that if the bank go belly up, you will get. Now, the thing is, the insurance of deposits is very costly. It's very costly. And the normal practice in the world is that the insurance owners can only, or the people who take insurance for that kind of coverage, they are only able to protect small depositors. Later on, I will let you know that the central bank, what threshold that they are hoping to cover. Okay, so it means that if there is a loss, then there would be funds at least up to a certain amount that is to take care of some of the people who make deposit in the bank. At the moment, if there is a loss, nobody gets. Nobody gets at all. You get nothing, that's it. Except the government steps in and say, I will use taxpayers' money to handle that. So when you go to bank and you make a deposit, you go to a bank and make a deposit, your money should be automatically covered. Here's the point that I am making. When an individual go to a bank, you go to a bank, you go to England, you go to America or whatever, you go to Canada, you put money in a bank. Up to 99%, you may have small banks that are not part of the system, and that may be so. But 99.9%, your money is covered automatically. And the banks are responsible for paying the insurance premium. That's the point, you know. That is why it's important to have the deposit insurance. So, but of course, as I have said before, because the premium can be very high, so that the insured, or the people taking the insurance are not likely to be able to provide insurance coverage for a lot of people. That is the people with the big money. All right? Are you getting me? Very nice. So, but there is a point that must be emphasized. A point that must be emphasized. A point that must be emphasized. Read that for me. A point that must be emphasized. That insofar, in our situation, in St. Kitts, in Anguilla, in Montserrat, Antigua, Barbuda, in St. Lucia, St. Vincent, in Grenada, insofar that we have agreed for a multi-country central bank. So the central bank should have been, just like in the case of Barbados and Guyana and Jamaica, a part of the Ministry of Finance. So if it's a part of the Ministry of Finance, it means, therefore, the government is accountable if the depositors cannot get their money. Now, get me very, very, very clear. Get me very, very clear. In other words, the Central Bank of Barbados is under the direct jurisdiction of the government of Barbados. The Central Bank of England, the Bank of England, is under the direct jurisdiction of the government. The same thing for Guyana and Trinidad. Now, we have agreed to have a multi-state central bank. Whether that is true or not, the government is still having contributory responsibility. That's the point that I am making. So, this is not simply a central bank matter. It's a central bank matter and a government matter. The people in the country must take step on that. So even if you see nothing is happening at the central bank, you must put fire under the government. You must put fire on the people you elect to represent you. What's that? The person hope I would. So we said, unlike the rest of CARICOM, we have a multi-state central bank, that's the ECCB at Boardrock. The government, of course, I have argued, is not absolved if the central bank fails to do its sacred duty. If it fails to do that. Why? Because the government is represented at two levels. At the board level, the government is represented by the financial secretary. So the financial secretary in the Ministry of Finance is a board member. And the Minister of Finance in the country. So the Minister of Finance in St. Kitts is Dr. Drew. Dr. Drew is on the council. So you not absolve. You not absolve. Because even if you don't see something happen, you have to ask a question. So the same thing holds for Dr. Douglas when he was there, and the same thing holds for Dr. Harris when he was there. So it's not simply a central bank matter. It is your matter, because the rationale is the government is the one to ensure the people's deposit are protected. Mm-hmm. So deposit insurance is really what we call a global best practice. The International Association of Deposit Insurers, in collaboration with the Financial Stability Board and the Ball Committee on Banking Supervision, by and large, they require central banks and government to make deposit insurance a must. Governments and central bank, they are required to make deposit insurance a must, because that is part of the fiber of global financial best practice. In fact, as we speak, there are over 100 central banks in the world. All of them have established insurance schemes or systems. So that basically what we are saying, if a bank were to fail the deposit insurance, of course, the banks would be the one responsible to make sure that they meet the cost of the bank failure. That is the cost of the peoples who are to be refunded. And that, of course, would free government from using tax revenue to reimburse the depositors. Now, this is what happens in central banks in the Caribbean. In the Caribbean, this is what obtains. In Trinidad and Tobago, they introduced deposit insurance in 1986. And the Deposit Insurance Corporation, they offer coverage to banks. And in fact, that's very nice. They provide coverage to credit union. That's tremendous. That is very, very nice. In Jamaica established since 1998, and under the Jamaica Deposit Insurance Act. They did that. Bahamas established in 1999. Barbados established there's in 2007. Guyana, Belize, and Guyana, Belize, they are very slow at the implementation stage. They are like the OECS, like the ECCB. They are on what we call the slow implementation stage. The implementation stage for us in the OECS have taken 40 years, and we are not there yet. So in 2025, the ECCB had the Eastern Caribbean Deposit Insurance Corporation agreement bill passed. So I think that is part of the governor's big push. So I was hoping that I would feel aggression, I would feel fire. You know, there is two types of fire. There is fire that comes from a boucan. Now, those of us from the Windward Islands will know about boucan. A boucan. Fire that comes from a volcano, if you want. And there is fire that comes from a cigarette. And why am I saying that? Because I love the blues. I love the blues. And B.B. King talks about how blue that you are. Now, it's a magnificent song if you have not. How blue can you be? And Coco reinterpreted, and Coco said that my love is like a fire, but your love is like a cigarette. So in other words, the point I'm trying to make, Trinidad, Barbados, Guyana, Bahamas, these fellows, their love is like fire. But ECCB and the rest of them, their love is like a cigarette. That's the point I'm trying to make. Of course, I'm making it funny, but I mean the fact is that bank failure is not funny. In fact, bank failure in the Eastern Caribbean is not unknown. We had the case of ABI Bank Limited in Antigua and Barbuda, where the ECCB intervened. I think that was in February 2009. And we also had the Bank of Antigua, where the ECCB intervened, I think the same 2009. And later, of course, they facilitated the sale to a consortium. Then we also had the Anguillan experience, and the Anguillan experience is right there with you. I came from Anguilla 2 years ago, and it's biting. Anguilla is feeling the pinch of not just the turbulence of the global economy and the impact of that, and of course the real impact on the offshore sector and what it did unto them. But Anguilla is basically, if you want, is mortgage. To rescue the whole bank rescuing process, actually mortgage the country, partially to Caribbean Development Bank. And while I was there, the people brought that up, and that was like fire. That wasn't like a cigarette. That was like a fire. So the Anguillan experience is still being felt. In 2014, the National Bank of Anguilla and the Caribbean Bank, they were both closed. A bridge bank, National Caribbean Bank of Anguilla, was created by the government in 2016, if my records are right. And of course, deposits up to 2.8 million, these were transferred, and of course, to kind of create the continuity of the bank. Up to now, when I was there, people are still talking about repayments have not been made and whatever and whatever. Now, and outside of that, today, even without bank failure, the internet economy have made banking so risky. Several times, I'm not going to mention bank because I bank with all the banks here in St. Kitts. I bank with the Bank of Nevis. I bank with the Bank of Republic Bank. I bank, because that was Scotia Bank before, and National Bank is my bank. So, and then let me tell you something. Several times, the banks have called me. There's one case when they tried to wipe out about 3/4 of my account in one of the banks. I'm not going to mention the bank. I love the banks. I'm not going to mention that. And it was a good thing that, I mean, the officers at the bank, they were nimble enough, and they did not make the approval. And they did not make the approval, and then they got to me, and I was not involved. I mean, I couldn't be. Money was being siphoned to the Middle East. Money was being siphoned to Europe, and money was being siphoned to some company here in St. Kitts, and things like that. And there are other times the banks have called me, and where actually people hack a portion of the money, but the banks, I think they rescued it and whatever. So I'm saying all that to say, outside of the bank failure, where the bank uses too much of your money in loans and they cannot get it back because the delinquency is up, and then you can't get your money and so on. But hacking is real. Hacking is real. You look, if the banks right now have to spend a lot of money. And I met with one of the high-level technical men in the IT department in one of the banks in St. Kitts. And this man is very well trained, extremely trained. He's from India. And we had a long talk, and he gave me a great education. And let me tell you something. Banks are spending a lot of money just to make sure your funds over there are protected. And even then, they're getting hit seriously. So the point that we are making here is the central bank and the government, look, forget about what happened in the days of Dwight Vayner. Forget about that. We're talking about a different period now. We are now in the internet age. They must act on that experience expeditiously. That's the point that I am making. So I don't see that in that big push from the central bank. And all this media blitz about come and hear the big push. That is what they should be pushing. I don't want to hear any other thing. That's what they should be pushing. Because in these turbulent times, people can't afford to take a loss. I'm going to take a break for advertisement. And after the advertisement, I'm going to open the phone to hear from you. And of course, we are going to go to the issues about how much risk really is in the system. Let's take an advertisement break.
65.com. From St. Kitts and Nevis to the world, Freedom FM, 106.5 FM.
Every day we're faced with choices to spend or to save, to delay or to stay on track. It's discipline that shapes our future, because discipline means making the choice today that pays off tomorrow. Remember, discipline, choice, pays. A message from the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Have you heard that Mind, Body, and Soul is back?
Yes, Mind, Body, and Soul is back on Sundays at 4 p.m. only on Freedom FM, hosted by the inspiring Julie Charles. This is your go-to show for thought-provoking and uplifting conversations. Every Sunday, dive into topics that nourish your mind, body, and soul. From wellness tips to personal growth to deep conversations, Julie brings you the stories that inspire change and spark reflection. Don't miss out. Tune into Minds, Body, and Soul on Sundays at 4 p.m. and let Freedom FM guide you to a more balanced and inspired life. Minds, Body, and Soul on Freedom FM Sundays at 4 p.m.
Get the Freedom FM app now. Just search Freedom FM app on Google Play or the Apple App Store and start listening today.
Welcome back. This is Issues with Coach Adrian. You're listening to Freedom FM 106.5. Our customers, our listeners says this is world-class radio at its best. And we boast that we are radio at its best. We are talking about the banking system and how safe our monies are in the bank. As we speak, we said there is no protection for the money that you put in the banks. And ECCB knows that, and the governments know that, from Denzil Douglas, from Simmons, Denzil Douglas, to Timothy Harris, to Dr. Drew. Now we are going to open the phone lines, and after that we are going to begin to talk about, I'm going to give you figures to show you the nature of the riskiness of doing business with the commercial bank. The number to call is 662-1065, 465-6474, or 465-0546. See if we have any on the platform. All right, let's go on. So let's talk about the risk that you take when you put your money in the bank. Now, commercial banks must be kept what I call under the radar. And central banks, that is their responsibility to make sure that they superintend, that, like I said last time, that they police, that they supervise, that they do everything to make sure that commercial banks are safe, or safe places for the people to put their money. So central banks are supposed to do what we call stress tests. And that is, they are to see that the commercial banks have enough money. They will do the tests, they will use the scenario and whatever, and to make sure that they have enough money at all times to survive severe and bad economic condition, particularly as we are having here in St. Kitts now. We have been going through a little period of economic low and so on. Next week we'll talk more about that when we talk about the economy. So the central bank would do the stress tests. The bank examiners would, of course, evaluate the credit risk with respect to the government, to the commercial bank. That is the lending process, the underwriting, and whatever. They making sure that they check if that they are making loans that, in a sense, that can be serviced by the borrowers. That's important. So are they making, or simply let's put it this way, are they making good loans? Because there are good loans and bad loans. Now, the bad news is many commercial banks under the watch of the Eastern Caribbean central banks are under stress. And I quote, under stress. I'm pulling the term under stress from the IMF report. Under stress. It says many commercial banks under the watch. Now, it does not appear like that in the IMF. I put under the watch, but the term under stress, that is also in the IMF report. They are under stress. That is, the delinquency rates in those commercial banks which the central bank is supposed to supervise, they are far out of line. They are far out of line. In fact, I put it this way, delinquency is intolerably high. Now, that's not a joke, and I'm not just blowing, I'm trying to put fear in you. In fact, I'm trying to be moderate, in fact. Delinquency is intolerably high. And here are some figures, just to justify that. In the professional thing, okay, somebody's online. Okay, once you're online, we take you. You online, please.
Good afternoon, Peter.
Afternoon, how you doing, man?
I'm fine.
Let me tell you, boy, how was the May Day, man?
Huh?
How was your May Day?
Yeah, I watched your matching. How about that?
Are you there?
Yes. You can hear me?
How was your May Day, man?
Yeah, I said I watched you matching.
Believe you, because I could not go this time. I didn't go.
Oh, you normally go?
Yeah, man. How you mean if I normally go, man?
Okay. Well,
I normally go with them and whatever. And when I go up there, I also go for the fete and so on, And when I normally go by the palm section, and I normally eat with the palm people. I go there,
okay.
I eat, I play dominoes with them, and then I go back when it is time for the Prime Minister to make the speech,
Okay.
I miss all of that, so you didn't go?
Well, you must have been very disappointed this year then.
Come on, why you think so?
But anyway,
Why?
Well, is it the usual activities you would expect? Match, the size and so on that you'd expect?
No, I did not go. I wanted to see how large was it and so on.
Yeah,
What was the
but I saw the pictures.
It's a picture. Well, can you send something to me? Button. Have anything? If you have pictures, send me something on WhatsApp, no man.
Okay, I'll do that.
Talk to me.
But from what I saw, it wasn't impressive. But anyhow.
But that is kind of bad. That is the whole home run for election, What kind of vibes is that?
No, I wouldn't necessarily call it that. But it certainly seems as if a lot of people are disillusioned and turned off from the May Day activities, the Labor Day activities. And there are lots of reasons for that. But that's another story.
We will talk, when we begin to speak from next week, the IMF report, some of those issues will come out.
Yeah, okay. But I was a bit concerned just now when you said essentially that there's no insurance for our deposits.
For the
is that
indigenous
really-
banks. Indigenous banks.
Right.
In St.
But
Kitts,
it-
Bank of Nevis and Bank of St. Kitts, Nevis and Anguilla.
Right. But is that really so? Because you see, we know about being too big to fail. And that in itself suggests that the government will do whatever is necessary to make sure those deposits are secure.
They are supposed to do it or they do it. Which one are you talking about?
Well, they haven't been tested. Well, I shouldn't even say
You're
they
saying
haven't been
are the
tested.
government supposed to do it or the government doing it? What are you saying?
They're supposed to, I would think. And because you see, remember there have been instances where banks in the region have failed and the government through indigenous banks step in. I can think of, for instance, what happened with the Antigua Commercial Bank or something like that.
I just gave you Antigua, Antigua ABI, Antigua.
Right.
Don't forget the whole mess in Anguilla.
Right.
I gave you all the examples there. I have them right there. Okay.
But the bank
So
stepped in,
you go on.
But they stepped in to try to save them, didn't they?
Hold on, Mark. You don't mind I speak back to you?
Sure.
But Mark, the point that we are making is, when they step in, they are stepping in to take taxpayers' money. And in most cases, for example, let's take St. Kitts. Government don't have money to step in and do that, and I have figures there to show you. Government don't have money to step in and bail out the depositors. When I will give you the volume of deposits, and so be careful. So the thing is, the insurance, what it would do, Mark, the banks would be responsible for paying the premium, and when you go in there, your money that you deposit up to a certain amount is automatically covered. That's the point.
Yeah, I understand that, and I think the U.S. has that system where the federal government essentially covers up to a certain amount, right? But what I'm saying is, you really feel that if tomorrow National Bank got into trouble, that the government can let National Bank fail?
You want me to answer the question?
In all honesty, Peter.
Do you want me to answer the question now?
Yes.
I don't mind, because it will benefit other people. I will answer your question this way. As we speak, there is no insurance, just like you have a house insurance or car insurance. There is no, or life insurance, there is no insurance to protect. That should be there, just like Trinidad and Barbados has. But
Okay.
if something happens of that nature, government doesn't have a choice.
That's the point I'm
Hold on,
making.
but hold on, be careful with that. That is not a comfort, because government have massive deficit. And like I will show you from next week, government is almost broke. Careful what you're talking about there. So don't believe that's a comfort.
but
You know what
Peter-
is the comfort? Let me give you what's the
Peter-
comfort.
But Peter,
Hold on. Let me tell you what is the comfort and what comforts me. Because I have my savings at National Bank, and I love National Bank. In fact, I have been in National Bank since Central Bank. Let me tell you, it will take 7 hurricanes to touch National Bank of St. Kitts, Nevis, Anguilla. This bank is so loaded with money. And it is so loaded with money coming to it every time in turnaround. Let me tell you something. It will take a catastrophe of maybe Noah's flood to mash up, to sink that bank. That's all I can tell you.
well, okay, so that is what gives you comfort.
But that's my comfort. That's why I am not perturbed. I am
All
not
right.
perturbed of my little savings there, because I know you
well-
can't touch that bank.
Well, my comfort doesn't come from that. My comfort, because you see, there were banks before, indigenous banks before, that went under, that were essentially were supposedly running good, but they still ended up going under, right? My comfort comes not from the fact that they have so much deposits, etc., because you can have a run on any bank, okay?
No,
And
you
even
can't.
the big
A run don't
deposits
just happen like that.
No.
Be careful. Be careful.
No. But I'm saying,
Mark, you can't have a run just like that on a bank. That can't happen. Not just that the bank is dependent on trust, but in other words, the bank, for there to be a run, you must get a systemic message that, just like Bico and Clico, is about to crash.
Exactly, and that's my point.
You are saying National Bank is about to crash?
These things, no. Who said that Bico knew they were about to crash?
But Bico, okay.
Happen in the financial system. That's what I'm saying, right?
Say it again, repeat.
I'm saying that crashes like these happen in the financial system from time to time. Even in bigger jurisdictions, it happens. So we can't rule them out. But what I would say, that
Mark,
yeah.
Mark, I cannot agree with you as an economist, a central banker for many years. I cannot agree with what you're saying. I'll tell you why. Banks don't fail like dominoes, knocking one another and they're falling down. No, sir. Banks don't fail like that. In other words, for a bank.
So what happened in the States when they had the problem with the bank?
That's make me talking about cowboys and crooks, man. We ain't talking about no cowboys and crooks. I'm about the state, man. I'm talking about here.
But it is our financial.
A lot of those banks overseas, these are cowboys and crooks.
We take pattern from up there.
Oh, no, be careful, boy. That's why I stand by central bank, boy. Notwithstanding what I'm saying there. Look, central bank examiners, central bank oversight. Let me tell you something. They're not perfect, but they're doing a good job.
But what I'm saying, they are just as susceptible to the vagaries of what happened internationally. I'm telling you.
I say no. Why tell you no?
Yeah.
Because the dynamic.
There are things that they cannot control.
But what they can't control? You can't control. Look, let me just explain something. The general practice is that if you get $1 in deposit, you are not allowed to give more than 80 cents of that in loan. And then, of course, you submit to the bank, to the central bank, weekly, monthly, detailed reports on everything. In other words, if the central bank is doing its work well, they are going to be on you like a hawk. They are free to come and open your books. They can do it, and if you resist and you become I don't know how the words to use. They take away the license from you. Simple and straight. Of course, that's political. But let me tell you something. The kind of cowboys and crook things that we know that happening in the America, that's not what happened in the ECCU, my brother. Please, I can tell you that. I was there for 20 years.
And I would say to you that we have not had conditions for that to happen. Have we had any real economic crisis where the economy itself is going to collapse? Because that is actually what shows up the banks, right? If the economy is good, the banks will do well. If it's not good, then that's another story. And I'm saying that we have not, yes, we can have stress tests and all of that, but we have not had really severe conditions that throughout the OECS, I would say throughout the OECS, because that in itself
what about COVID? What about the 2 years of COVID?
Because actually, that you see how we recovered from that, how we managed that. Okay, so what I'm saying is, okay, because of the system that we have, where you have different territories, and it's usually unlikely that all will go bad. Everybody's economy will fare badly at any one time. Right? That in itself is a kind of buffer, a kind of insurance. Right? But I'm telling you, right, we have not been tested in terms of a really severe crisis. And I'm saying that my comfort comes from the fact that if we do have a severe crisis, right, government, being the kind of people that they are, will intervene to make sure that people are going to be okay. That's the bottom line.
Mark, I think I have to let you go because we have been there for some time.
Okay.
But let me just respond to that. I don't like the way you end it, Mark. I don't like the way you end it. Look, government does not have a guarantee. For example, there are things I don't want to say yet because I'm not speaking about the IMF report. But when I begin to speak about it, I'll be able to bring clarity. I could say something now. I'm not saying it. Let me tell you something. Government don't have a money tree. You get the impression that government can just come in and pay. That's not true.
They don't have to have a money tree, but they can have.
That's not true.
Have unlimited deficits.
Let me tell you, Mark. What happened? You campaigning on the radio. What is it that you're doing? Campaigning for Labour Party. What exactly are you doing?
I'm trying to pick your brains, right? I'm trying to pick your brains, and I'm trying to tell you that governments can even go bankrupt, okay? But governments are not going to fall, right? The government will always be there. You know, people should have had that saying. One thing you can be sure of is death and taxes and government, right? And I'm saying...
Yeah, but Mark, I'll have to cut you off. But before you go, but one thing that we have to give the people the assurance, government must not shun their responsibility and wait for when something happens to get in taxpayers. What we want to do is to get the insurance. Look, the insurance that the central bank is putting together, they will cover everybody from $50,000 going down. At least they need to do that expeditiously.
From the private sector, Peter? Do you know?
Did you hear what I say? Did you hear what I say?
That they're talking about getting insurance to cover.
I know you do. You're not listening.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Insurance that the central bank is going to put in place is going to cover depositors up to $50,000. So I am saying that even if you think it is small, I'm saying government and the central bank must do that expeditiously. That's all I am saying.
Yeah, and I was just asking if that insurance is coming from private sources, like, you know, you can have reinsurance and so on.
Oh man, you were not listening. You see, I tried to detail this thing, but you did not listen. Let me say it again. And then, of course, I have to cut you off. Let me say it again. The deposit insurance, it is like the commercial banks would be the one taking the insurance. They will be the one paying the premiums. Of course, they will add that to fees and this and that. So, in other words, if there ever is a call, they will be the one to provide the money, and government don't have to go into the coffers. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Well, I guess we'll have to take up this privately, because the fact is that insurance must come from somewhere. If you're saying it's coming from central bank funds, or it's coming from...
Oh Lord, man. You preconceive, man. You're not listening because you asking questions, but you're not listening.
You want to avoid the hard truth of the money got to come from somewhere to reinsure.
Mark, you're not listening, Mark.
Okay, maybe I'm not. No. It is that I'm not listening.
Mark, you are talking, but you're not listening. So I may have to cut you off and for me to say it. You're not listening.
Let me understanding.
Father in heaven.
Yeah.
Man, I didn't know that you are a man like that.
We'll take up this privately.
Speaking, you don't listen.
We'll take up this privately. I'm not understanding what you're saying.
Because you will never understand because you're not listening.
Okay.
I said the deposit insurance does not operate like property insurance or like life insurance. With property insurance, you must buy reinsurance. With life insurance, you must make sure you invest the money. That is why BICO went down. You invest in a sector that is going to make sure that it gives you great return, so that when the people's investment is maturing, you will have money. But the deposit insurance, the premiums will be paid by the banks. And you're still asking me the same thing. Look, we need to move on. I need to move on.
All right. Okay.
Thank you. God bless you. So the point that we are making here is that we must not wait until there is a failure or call on the government, and then the government have to try to get taxpayers' money to bail out bank. Well, government can't bail out the bank, because I have, let me just show you something there, because the time is going. Let me just show you something. Let me fast forward and show you something here. Let me show you something. Government can't bail them off. Let me show you. I'm going to fast forward. Come on, go quickly. Let me fast forward. The people, the number of people with 50,000. Okay, somebody, you on air, please. Okay, the number of people with $50,000 or more deposit that is in St. Kitts is 164,579. So if the deposit insurance is in place, those persons, now of course we're talking about, you might say, Peter, there are only 55,000 people. These are number of accounts. Because you can have a house, or you can have a household, with several accounts. You can have one person with several accounts. Okay? Okay, you on air, please.
Good afternoon, Peter, and good afternoon.
Afternoon, sir.
And nice listening to you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Now what the insurance is all about, that you, like me, or you, or any other customers banking in any bank, whether national bank or whatever, commercial bank, that if the bank getting a problem, they will get sufficient, like going bankruptcy then, right? So all of us will insure, me will insure, and you will insure, so we'll get back with money from this insurance.
Oh, I want you to stay there. Can I talk back to you?
Sure, man, sure.
Fine, so stay there. No, as we speak now, if you have money in the indigenous bank, and by indigenous bank in St. Kitts, we're talking about National Bank and Bank of Nevis.
Yes.
If when you go there and you put your money, there is no insurance coverage. So if any of these banks go down right now, government and central bank must find a way to take care of the small depositors. And I just told you, people who have less than 50,000, who have up to $50,000 in St. Kitts, there are 164,579 accounts. So if that were to happen now, government must find money to take care of the small people. But people like you who are calling me, you are a big man, you have millions of dollars, you will get nothing.
You see, Peter, what happened that, right? I don't think that the National Bank, as we come from as a penny bank to a poor man bank, I don't think that you treat we, the customers, them good when we go take a loan. Because I had a situation here, Peter, back in, I think, 2015, I went to a loan. I was done in my 50s. And what happened that they give me a kind of run around, and I had collateral in the bank. You know, give me a kind of, I got to go to this, I got to go to that. And just shortly after, I hear them saying they're giving student loan without security. You understand? You think that is fair, Peter?
I'm writing what you're saying for me to comment. Go on.
Yes, yeah.
Tell you, so you are saying that when you say you had deposit with the National Bank.
Yes.
That's where you save your money.
Yeah, that's why I say that's why I put my money.
At the point, we're not hearing them well. At the point that they turn you down, did you have a loan with them?
Well, they really turned me down, you know. But the problem I really got to go through to get a loan. I said, no, man, no.
So what I am saying, did you have, at the point that you asked them for the loan, did you have a previous loan with them?
No. That's the first loan I ever
loan. And you had been saving with them all the time.
Man, I started saving National since a small boy. That's my bank.
And you are a big money man.
Man, I wouldn't say big money man.
You're a big money man. I mean, you not the man of, you not those people of 50,000. You pass that.
I had a trade that could have the loan went on because I didn't want $50,000 to do some additional to my house. And the problem that I got to go through, I went back.
me tell you something, you know, if you're taking a loan, did they student loan? Don't even get a bank account. They give them loan without security.
Forget about what they're giving other people. But did they follow with you that you ask for them for that and they ask you for that, you bring it to them and whatever, they came to see the place and things like that, and they tell you, did they do these kind of things?
No, they come. No, nobody come. The loan officer, nobody come.
Didn't you appeal to the general manager?
No, I just give, I just take my money out from your account and do what I got to do now because.
I see. But maybe it's a good thing you do, because I mean, maybe it's a good thing you do. I mean, in St. Lucia, we believe that if you're doing something, if you have the money, you better do it on your money than to go and take a loan. That's what we believe.
Anyway, thank you for the education as a banker, you know.
Okay, my brother. Okay, man, my brother. Thank you so very much.
Nice listening to you, yeah.
God bless, man. Now, the thing is that people have to understand, though, when the banks say that they are giving a particular sector, say, for example, maybe education, and they say, we are going to give them loans at 2% or 3%, but if you want a car or if you want a whatever, we are going to give you a higher interest rate. That does not necessarily mean that the bank is discriminating about against you, because what the bank does what we call the same thing that you do. They look at their sector, they look at their demand, they look at what is happening, and they look at the place that they're most likely to get good loans. They look also at the place where people are look at the applicants who are most likely to repay. For example, let me give you a good example. Suppose you're working in the tourism industry. You're working at the hotel and you are very big at Marriott. Oh, things good and whatever. And say you have a good season. For example, we just had a good season, a good tourism season. The entire tourism industry is doing well in the Caribbean. We'll speak about that when we speak about the IMF report. And then let us say we are now in May. We are in May. Let us say last month, April, you went to the bank and you tell the bank now, I want a car. I have done so and so. I have accumulated so and so. I got so much in tips and whatever, and I have a lot of money now. Now, it depends on who your banker is, what is your credit history with them. The bank can say to you, yes, you made a lot of money, but now because you are in an industry that has a very short business cycle, basically the business cycle is about ending now. And it is waiting for the beginning of the next big cycle that is after the hurricane season towards the end of the year. So that during that time, a number of people, if they are not laid off, then these people are placed on, maybe they rotate them and this and that and whatever. So all these things can affect the appetite of the bank to give you the loan, and not necessarily because they prejudice about you. Maybe if you had come to ask for that particular loan during the booming of the industry or of the business cycle, maybe had you come in December, January, you might have gotten the. Now, I am just saying that. That doesn't mean that what I'm saying there, that's what happens. But I'm just giving you the different condition that can influence the appetite of the banking system. Let's take an advertisement break.
.com. From St. Kitts and Nevis to the world, Freedom FM, 106.5 FM.
Every day we're faced with choices to spend or to save, to delay or to stay on track. It's discipline that shapes our future because discipline means making the choice today that pays off tomorrow. Remember, discipline, choice, pays. A message from the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Have you heard that Mind, Body, and Soul is back?
Yes, Mind, Body, and Soul is back on Sundays at 4 p.m. only on Freedom FM, hosted by the inspiring Julie Charles. This is your go-to show for thought-provoking and uplifting conversations. Every Sunday, dive into topics that nourish your mind, body, and soul. From wellness tips to personal growth to deep conversations, Julie brings you the stories that inspire change and spark reflection. Don't miss out. Tune into Minds, Body, and Soul on Sundays at 4 p.m. and let Freedom FM guide you to a more balanced and inspired life. Minds, Body, and Soul on Freedom FM Sundays at 4 p.m.
Get the Freedom FM app now. Just search Freedom FM app on Google Play or the Apple App Store and start listening today.
Welcome back. Welcome back to Issues. We are discussing how safe our monies are at the commercial banks and how much oversight has the ECCB, who is responsible to oversee those banks, how well that is happening here, despite all the hard work, how well the banks are doing. I want to now zero on the banks in St. Kitts. The international rule, the rule for lending, it is accepted that to every dollar that a commercial bank gives out, the tolerable level of delinquency or the portion of that dollar that is tolerated to get bad is 5 cents. So 95 cents is expected to be repaid by the borrower, and 5 cents you expect a loss. That is the risk, that's the risk tolerant. So delinquency, or what we call NPL, should be about 5% or less. Now, you will be surprised that the ECCU area does not have a very good report card, although there is marked improvement since 2022. The delinquency rate for the ECCU area in 2022 was about 11%, 2023 11%, 2024 9%, and 2025 about 8%. But St. Kitts in particular is bad news. I mean, when I say bad news, I mean terrible news. These are the figures for St. Kitts. And when I say St. Kitts, all the banks put together, Republic Bank, National Bank, and Bank of Nevis put together. The delinquency rate in those banks in 2022 was 22 cents to every dollar in 2022. 2023, 19 cents to every dollar. 2024, 18 cents to every dollar. 2025, 16 cents to every dollar. So you understand how far they are. So the Eastern Caribbean is normally often highlighted as having what you call, that is how it is in the report, elevated NPL, non-performing loans. But see how bad the St. Kitts compared with the rest of the banks that are supervised in the countries by the ECCB. In Anguilla, I'm looking at only 2025 now. Anguilla, it was 10%. Antigua, 3%. Dominica, 9%. Grenada, 4%. Montserrat, 8%, despite the few people that they have. St. Lucia, 8%, 8.5%. St. Vincent, 5%. And what is funny, St. Kitts is 15%, 16%. Even the agricultural countries like Dominica, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, they have far superior delinquency rate than St. Kitts. In fact, St. Kitts and Nevis is making the ECCU look very bad. If you were to remove St. Kitts, the ECCU okay. But it is the bad numbers from St. Kitts that is bringing down the ECCU. So St. Christopher and Nevis is comparatively a delinquent banking system. And and Mark is calling me and telling me government will pay. That is the comfort, Mark. That is the comfort. No, the comfort for that is to correct that and at the same time expeditiously have deposit insurance. Since 2023, the IMF have been warning regarding government responsibility and government responsibility on that issue and government responsibility from borrowing at the domestic banks. And I want to quote an extract from the IMF report for 2023, page 16 and 79, and I want to read it as it is, as it reads. It says, I quote, "The business model of the systemic banks should be revisited with an emphasis on risk reduction. State ownership, large government deposit and borrowings, market and credit risk exposure make the systemic bank a powerful conduit of financial risk to the fiscal sector and ultimately to the economy. Loan loss provision should be increased to cover impaired loans. While the supervision is at the ECCB level, with the bank's systemic importance, the national authorities could consider reducing the bank's exposure to the government." End of quote. Page 1617, IMF report 2023. Here it is saying very clearly. Another thing that compounds the problem, it is saying it is government lending from the indigenous banks. So in other words, you have it is warning that one, the delinquent rate is very high, and therefore a lot of money have to be made. In other words, make provision to cover those losses. But it's saying at the same time that yes, it receives tremendous deposits from government, but it's a government exposure, that is lending to the government, must be contained. That's the point. That's the point. So the situation in St. Kitts and Nevis is far outside of the internationally accepted benchmark. Let me repeat that. The situation in St. Kitts and Nevis is far outside of the internationally accepted benchmark. In fact, I just remember a politician in St. Lucia. He was the Minister of Education, Honorable Alan Bousquet, Minister of Education for a very long time. And one day I'll tell you how Compton used to choose them. I suppose Compton choosing them to make sure, he used to choose them to make sure they give him no competition. And this man coined a new word. You know, we say something is good, something is bad. and it is worse. Well, he coined another word. He said, it's not just bad, it's not just worse, but he coined a new word. He said it is worser. So if you want to accept that from the wordsmith, St. Kitts is making the OECS, the Central Bank, and the ECCU, the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, look bad. And I have no excuse for saying that. In other words, this is the home. The point I'm making that this is the home of the central bank. Let's deal with that. Something is amiss both at the domestic banks and something is amiss at the central bank, because this is happening under your nose. That is what we have to examine. Even the agricultural countries, and we know that an agricultural loan is more likely to go belly up than a service loan. But St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Grenada, look at the kind of figures that they have. Look at the kind of figures. When Grenada lend money, not even only 4 cents out of $1 on an average get bad. Montserrat don't have many people. You can count them on your hand. But when they give a loan, not more than 8 cents of $1 gets bad. When St. Vincent give a loan, not more than about 4 cents, 4.5 cents get bad. But what about St. Kitts? You can drive from the central bank and sleep in the banks. You can open their door, you can open their books how they want. But what is it? From 2020, yes, it is going down slightly, yes. 20 cents, 2023. 20 cents, 2022 was 22 cents. 2023, 20 cents. 2024, 18 cents. 2006 and 25, 16 cents. Yes, it is going, but it's still not tolerable. Central bank must do something about that. Central bank must do something about that. Central bank must do something about that. And the government, who is also responsible, must do something about that. That's the point that we say. And without deposit insurance, you are putting the people at risk. That's the point that we are making here. You are putting the people at risk. So it seems to me, I'm going to close. It seems to me, one can ask, who cares? Well, to some extent, the central bank cares. At least it might have taken 40 years, but now they want to speed on getting access and putting that deposit insurance in place. Who cares after 40 years? Who cares after the British American and Clico issue? And I brought it here. I did my homework. A number of people have not gotten their life savings from BICO. A number of them. Some people actually called me. Some people write to me. I did my homework. The Gaston Brown Prime Minister was working with the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. Now things have fallen out. I don't know if she will honor the 60 million because things are very bad in relation between Carmela and the rest of them in CARICOM. I don't know. Now, after that kind of experience, after the Anguillan experience, after the Antiguan experience, look, the government want to make people feel. The central bank want to make people feel as if it is business as usual. Who you think you're fooling? Who you think you're fooling? So because you put nice clothes and you drive nice car and you go up to Boardwalk and you go to nice offices, you want to make us feel that it's business as usual? It's not business as usual. You have to do the work that you are paid to do. And the government have to do the work of oversight because the final figure points on to the government. They have the person on the board, the FS, and the Prime Minister, the Minister of Finance, is on the council. Now, did you know that some of those who care less, I say care less, they include the very ones who knew that British American and Clico Insurance were going belly up. They knew that. And include the very people they had insider information. They protected themselves and their friends and their makokot and their partners in crime. And today, many people have lost their savings and have not gotten a cent. That is the kind of hypocrisy in society. That is the kind of hypocrisy. That is the kind of, and everybody say country before self. Where's the country before self? Where is it? Who cares? Here are the people who cannot take a loss. The 164,579 account holders who are below 5,000. A large part of that social class is isolated, ignored, cast aside. Some of them being punished because they're on the wrong side. They're supporting the wrong party. Deprived. They are blocked. Yes, that category includes what I call the working poor. Some of them are working every day. They go into work. Some of them don't even see their children. We only see them on weekend, but they still poor. The minimum wage owner, the odd jobber, the petty trader, the vendor, the corner shop owner, the small artisan, the many who are working hand to mouth. These are the people who have that kind of savings down there. The rural workers who are spending, they are on that farm from sunrise to sunset. And I just came from Tabernacle. I deliberately paid the bus. I didn't drive there. When they gave me the fee, I paid them the fee. I said, but how do people make it on minimum wage? The fellow told me $4. $4, I pay him $4. So if I was coming to work, I have to pay $4 to come back. I have to pay for lunch. I have to pay. How do they survive? So who cares? Who cares? That's the point that we are talking about. I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for participating. I want to thank you for taking time to listen to the show. I wish that you will still be with me next week when we begin what will be a very long discussion on the St. Kitts and Nevis 2026 IMF report. Until then, thank you. This is Coach Adrian saying bye-bye.